A few weeks ago, a cybersecurity researcher read a new scientific paper and reportedly told a colleague in blunt terms that the world is not prepared for what's coming. He wasn't talking about a natural disaster. He wasn't talking about a virus or a war. He was talking about a quantum computer built by Google that just did something researchers weren't expecting to see for years. And buried inside, that achievement is a warning that touches almost every piece of encrypted data currently sitting on the internet, including yours. Stick around, because this isn't science fiction. This is real, peer-reviewed research happening right now in 2026, and it's already reshaping how governments and financial institutions are preparing for the next decade. Let's start with the machine at the center of this story. Google's quantum computing division, known as Google Quantum AI, has spent more than a decade building increasingly powerful quantum processors. Their most advanced chip right now is called Willow, and it represents years of work trying to solve one of the biggest problems in quantum computing, a problem that has held the entire field back for decades. Quantum bits, or qubits, the building blocks of quantum computers, are incredibly fragile. The tiniest disturbance, a stray vibration, a bit of heat, even background radiation, can corrupt the delicate quantum state they rely on to function. Scientists call this problem noise, and for years, adding more qubits to a quantum computer actually made the noise problem worse, not better. In 2024, Google achieved something researchers had been chasing for almost 30 years. They demonstrated that by increasing the number of physical qubits used in a specific error correcting configuration called a surface code, they could actually decrease the overall error rate instead of increasing it. This is often described as crossing the quantum error correction threshold, and it matters because it suggests, for the first time with real experimental evidence, that quantum computers can actually be scaled up into larger, more powerful machines without the noise problem spiraling out of control. If you're new here, we cover breakthroughs exactly like this one every single week. Real developments in AI, physics, and space that are reshaping the world in real time. So make sure you're subscribed before we continue, because this story is about to get a lot more serious. That threshold breakthrough set the stage for what happened next. In 2025, Google's team published research on something they called the quantum echoes algorithm, run directly on the Willow chip. This algorithm accomplished something researchers refer to as verifiable quantum advantage, meaning the quantum computer solved a specific, complex problem faster than any classical supercomputer could, and crucially, in a way that could be independently checked and confirmed by other scientists. Previous claims of quantum advantage had faced criticism because they were difficult or impossible for outside researchers to verify. Quantum echoes was different, built specifically so its results could be double-checked and trusted. That single distinction, verifiability, is a big part of why this achievement carries so much weight in the scientific community. It's the difference between a company simply claiming their machine is powerful and a machine actually proving it under conditions other experts can independently confirm. But the part of this story that has cybersecurity researchers genuinely alarmed goes even further than Willow itself. Earlier this year, a separate but closely related breakthrough emerged, one that combined artificial intelligence directly with quantum hardware design. A researcher who had previously worked inside Google Quantum AI alongside a small team published new results showing that AI could be used to dramatically accelerate the discovery of better quantum computing architectures, essentially using machine learning to help design and refine quantum systems faster than human researchers working alone ever could. If discoveries like this one, the moments where science quietly crosses a threshold most people won't notice until it's already reshaping the world, are the kind of thing that keeps you coming back to this channel. Do me a favor and hit that like button. It genuinely helps this content reach more people who care about staying ahead of these changes. Around the same time, Google quietly posted a job listing for a quantum researcher specifically tasked with developing AI-based discovery pipelines, systems designed to use artificial intelligence to accelerate quantum research even further. Then, in a public announcement shortly afterward, Google revealed an entirely new internal initiative focused on atomic quantum computing, expanding beyond their existing superconducting chip approach into an entirely different quantum computing method using neutral atoms. This convergence, AI accelerating quantum research, quantum hardware crossing, critical error correction thresholds, and multiple approaches advancing simultaneously, is exactly why researchers started using words like alarming and unprepared. According to a 2025 survey cited by multiple cybersecurity experts, there was already estimated to be roughly a 39% chance that quantum computers capable of breaking modern encryption could emerge within the next decade. These recent AI-accelerated breakthroughs appear to be shortening that timeline even further, and nobody currently knows by exactly how much. Here's why that timeline actually matters to you, and to basically everyone who uses the internet. Nearly every secure system in modern life, banking, medical records, government communications, private messages, relies on encryption methods that are mathematically difficult for classical computers to break. A sufficiently powerful quantum computer, using known algorithms specifically designed for this purpose, could theoretically break through that encryption in a fraction of the time a classical computer would need, rendering huge portions of today's digital security effectively obsolete. This isn't a distant theoretical concern to intelligence agencies and cybersecurity researchers either. There's a well-known strategy referred to as harvest now, decrypt later, where adversaries collect and store encrypted data today, data they currently cannot break, simply betting that a future quantum computer will eventually be powerful enough to unlock it. Every sensitive file, encrypted today using current standards, could, in theory, already be sitting somewhere, waiting patiently for exactly the kind of breakthrough Google just demonstrated pieces of. This is precisely why governments haven't been sitting still. Financial regulators across the G7 nations have already begun mandating a transition toward what's called post-quantum cryptography, new encryption methods specifically designed to resist attacks from quantum computers, with formal deadlines set for full adoption by the end of this decade. The United States National Institute for Standards and Technology has set its own target date, aiming to have quantum-resistant standards broadly implemented well before quantum computers are expected to become powerful enough to pose a genuine threat. The tricky part, and the part that has researchers genuinely worried, is that predicting exactly when a quantum computer becomes powerful enough to actually break. Encryption is incredibly difficult. It's not a single dramatic moment where a machine suddenly unlocks everything. It's a gradual accumulation of smaller breakthroughs, better error correction, more stable qubits, smarter algorithms, AI-assisted design improvements, each one quietly moving the timeline forward by months or years. Google's recent results represent exactly that kind of incremental but significant step, precisely the kind of development that makes conservative estimates start looking increasingly optimistic. Not everyone in the field is convinced the sky is falling immediately. Some researchers have pointed out that the underlying papers behind these most recent claims haven't yet completed the full peer review process, and several of the core assumptions still require further independent verification before the broader scientific community fully accepts them. Quantum computing has a long history of exciting announcements that later required significant caveats once other scientists dug deeper into the details. Healthy skepticism remains an important part of how this field evaluates its own progress. Still, the underlying trajectory is difficult to ignore. Google now has multiple independently impressive achievements stacking on top of each other within a remarkably short window of time, crossing the error correction threshold, demonstrating verifiable quantum advantage with quantum echoes, applying AI to accelerate hardware design, and expanding into an entirely new quantum computing modality using neutral atoms, all within roughly the last 2 years. Individually, each of these might be considered a solid, expected step forward. Together, they paint a picture of a field accelerating faster than many experts predicted just a few years ago. That acceleration is exactly what prompted the blunt warning from the researcher who left Google Quantum AI earlier this year to help found a new quantum computing startup. His comment that the world is not prepared wasn't a marketing statement or hype for an upcoming announcement. It was a candid assessment from someone who spent years working directly inside one of the most advanced quantum research programs on the planet, watching the timeline for a genuinely disruptive quantum computer compress in ways that caught even insiders off guard. It's worth taking a moment to understand why quantum computers are even capable of threatening encryption in the first place, because the underlying concept is genuinely fascinating once you break it down simply. Classical computers process information as bits, each one either a 0 or a 1, checking possibilities one at a time, or in limited parallel batches depending on the hardware. Quantum computers use qubits instead, which can exist in a strange in-between state called superposition, effectively allowing them to explore many possible answers simultaneously rather than one after another. For most everyday computing tasks, this doesn't offer any meaningful advantage, and classical computers remain far more practical and efficient. But for a very specific category of mathematical problems, the kind that modern encryption relies on to stay secure, a sufficiently powerful quantum computer running the right algorithm could theoretically solve them dramatically faster than any classical machine ever could. The mathematical foundation for this concern isn't new. A quantum algorithm capable of breaking widely used encryption methods was actually described theoretically back in the 1990s, decades before any quantum computer existed that could realistically run it. For years, this remained a purely academic concern, an interesting but distant theoretical threat, because building a quantum computer stable and powerful enough to actually execute that algorithm at meaningful scale seemed impossibly far away. What's changed recently isn't the math. It's the hardware finally starting to catch up to theory in ways many experts didn't expect this soon. This is also why the collaboration between AI and quantum computing feels like such a significant turning point to people working in this space. Historically, improving quantum hardware required years of careful manual experimentation, physicists and engineers painstakingly testing different configurations, materials, and calibration techniques one at a time, using AI to help search that enormous space of possible designs, predicting which configurations are likely to reduce noise or improve stability before physically building and testing them, has the potential to compress years of trial and error into a fraction of the time. That's precisely the kind of acceleration that has researchers recalibrating their previous timelines, sometimes by years, in a relatively short window of new results. If the world's encryption standards are built on assumptions about how long quantum computers would take to become dangerous, and those assumptions keep getting proven too conservative every single year, how much runway do governments, banks, and ordinary people actually have left to prepare before today's digital security starts becoming yesterday's vulnerability? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and let me know whether you think we're genuinely racing against the clock, or whether this is still years away from mattering to your everyday digital life. If this story pulled you in the way it pulled me in while researching it, hit that like button. It genuinely helps this channel keep covering stories like this one, and subscribe if you haven't already, because quantum computing is moving faster than almost anyone predicted, and when the next major breakthrough happens, we'll be covering it right here. Somewhere inside a lab in California, a machine built from qubits colder than deep space just proved it could do something no classical computer ever could, and quietly started a countdown that most of the world hasn't even noticed has begun.